whew, it has been crazy as of late. These last few weeks over the holidays has just mixed in with all the stuff we've got to do with the construction at the new house. We are moving in apparently within the next 30 days or so, which means we've got a lot of moving to do in the meantime. We're not gonna be moving all at once. We're gonna be slowly but surely kind of squeezing our way into that house because there's a lot of security equipment we have to set up ahead of time. I've got to set up stuff with the ISP. I've got to set up the office, like just the walls, the staging, the lighting, all of that I wanna have ready to go before we actually officially move in because, well, it's gonna take a while. Now, our newly built server rack has just been chilling next to my editing workstation for a good while. Actually conveniently fits there between the wall and the desk, but this will be migrated shortly to the new house as well. Of course, we need to take things apart, especially this heavy stuff at the bottom, the server and the UPS. But this big gap, ooh, do I've got some good news about that gap. So pretty much everything to my left here was sent from Ubiquiti, and I want to give them a huge shout because they not only sent this stuff super quick through the holidays, which is very difficult for any tech company to navigate, but they also were very open to really any product we wanted for this build. That got me excited. I might have over-ordered a bit, but we're gonna find use for pretty much all of it. And while we won't technically be installing any of this stuff into the new house in this video, we will be at least unboxing it all, installing it into the server rack and making sure that it all works. In the same way that you would test PC components out of the box before you throw them into cases, we're gonna do a similar thing here. And again, I'm a nub, I don't know what I'm doing. Half of this networking stuff I can't even pronounce, so just come along for the ride and maybe you'll learn something like I do. Stay with me. If you're sick of seeing that same Activate Windows watermark over and over, head on over to VIP SCD Key, where they have Windows 10 and 11 Pro OEM keys at a fraction of the price of retail. Just use a secure payment method like PayPal, enter your product key into your PC settings window, and say bye-bye to the watermark. And be sure to use our offer code SKGS for that sweet discount. Before we get to the Ubiquiti stuff, I want to tackle some issues with the server rack as is. Some of the tips that you guys gave me in the previous server video are really going to come in handy here. Again, I don't really know what I'm doing, so I ended up like installing stuff in the wrong places on the server rack, and the runs and things aren't really going to make sense as is, so we're going to tackle that. We're also going to slightly modify the server itself because, well, Silverstone was gracious enough to send out a little bit of a case modifier here so we can fit a much beefier graphics card. At least on this side of the server, we have a few 5¼ inch drive bays, and I'm not really using them apart from the top one, and I guess if you really want to argue semantics here, I'm not really using the optical drive itself. I just wanted to throw one in here for the sake of it. It's not going to be missed if it goes. It was more or less just a party trick. So we're going to replace this entire section with a mount for a single fan, and that will give us a lot more space behind for that larger card. And that graphics card is an RTX 4090 Founders Edition, which seems like massive overkill for your average server, and that's because it normally would be, except in the case of where you want to game from said server. And if you're running virtual machines, maybe we can split the workload of the single 4090 between several virtual machines. I don't know if we can even do that, but that's the goal. Maybe gaming from 2 different PCs in different rooms from the same server. That would be really cool, and it's more or less just a challenge to myself, kind of like an internal sort of drive to want to do things that make me uncomfortable because I feel like I'll learn a lot from those situations. We'll also be installing the operating system. Well, we're gonna start with Proxmox, and then we're gonna go from there. So if you're wondering what my plan is for the server, right now it's just running Windows, but that's obviously very temporary. Probably Proxmox, and then, yeah, Ubuntu? I don't know. First things first, with the server out of the rack, we'll get this Blu-ray drive out and replace this entire enclosure. This thing is a little stubborn and it's awfully tight in here. And then we'll just adapt this cover piece here. You can see the few places where it clicks in, including this captive thumb screw. They also were kind enough to send out a PWM fan, which will situate itself right inside of this frame. We'll just slide this in like so. And with it tightened down, we can slide in our dust filter. And then in she goes, lining up that thumb screw there at the front. That'll be our sort of guide. So it'll sit almost like that right there. It almost looks exactly the same as it did before. Instead of 5¼ inch drives being here though, we have a nice 120mm PWM fan. Check this out, it's even a cool little door now, so if we need quick access for whatever reason, it's there. Now in goes our beefy 4090. Good gosh, this is a bit much, I'll admit, but if we can successfully utilize it the way I intend to, this will actually make a lot of sense. It'll just barely fit from a height perspective, and it'll get fresh air from the front now. On goes the cover. Always a bit finicky getting this on, but there we go. And before we reinstall the server into the rack, you'll notice that we've got these shelves that aren't exactly lined up with these white markings, and that prevents us from actually bolting, in some cases, the server to the rack just to keep things a little more stable long term. Many of you also suggested we move this power hub closer to the UPS down there, which we're also going to do. So we're going to fix the spacings up a bit and then slide the server in slightly above where it was before.
8 hours later.
Whew, that was probably a few second time lapse, but that took a good 20 minutes or so. The shelving's always a bit tricky because you have to adjust the length to fit the rack correctly. But you can see now I've moved the power hub to just above the UPS, which I think is a really smart move. Thank you for the recommendations, those who left those in the comments of the last video. We'll probably put like a little cover or something here between the hub and the server, but you can see the server sitting there, no problem now, and it actually lines up because we've minded the white lines now, so I can actually bolt it to the chassis. She ain't going anywhere. And then lastly, I've moved the keystone patch panel up to the very top. I still might end up changing this. I know some people are saying to leave it in the middle so that you don't have to run cables, super long distances, although I imagine most of this will go straight from here into our switch. Speaking of, one of the things, I almost broke my foot there. One of the things that Unify or that Ubiquiti sent was a 48 port PoE switch. So that's going to come in super handy for the new house. It's day 2 now. Last night I spent a bunch of time installing Proxmox. I had to mount the ISO from their website via Rufus to a thumb drive, got that installed on the server, and then also installed things like TrueNAS. So now I have the 4 hard drive array essentially in RAID 10. I wanted to do RAID 5 or RAID Z or something like that, but I think RAID 10's fine for now. I have that all set up in TrueNAS, and it was actually pretty straightforward. I did have my good friend Will helping me out. Without him, I would have taken a lot longer than just a single night, but I'm very appreciative to his help there, and I'm starting to get the hang of it. Like I said, it's not my forte. I'm not super software savvy, but I managed to get around, I think, and I'm just tinkering with things as we go. I'm able to now boot up VMs, no problem, Ubuntu, even Windows VMs, and shut them down. We can tinker with hardware allocation for each of those VMs. So all of that is very nice, very easy to do in Proxmox. I just wanted to start there because I heard many good things about it, and it's also open source and free, which is great. I like free. Free is awesome. As long as the product doesn't suck, I'm okay with free. But we have some other hardware to put in the server, and we're gonna fire all this up before we bring it to the new house, like I said, because I want to make sure it all works and that it's all sort of set up in software, at least preliminary software setup, so that when we do have to plug it all in at a new place, it just works and doesn't need to be tinkered with very much. This is the NVR, which is essentially a glorified video recorder from Ubiquiti. It comes with 4 hot swap bays, which is nice. So if we put, say, 4 terabytes apiece in here, 16 terabytes in total, that should, in theory, with a 4K H.264 recording format, we're looking at about 30 days or so of footage that we can store in this NVR if we record via these G5 Pro cameras. We're gonna have 2, one in front of the house, one at the rear of the house. That's at least to start with. So we've got the NVR now added to the rack. And again, this is just temporary. We're gonna plug it all in, make sure that it all works. And further up, you can see we've already installed our 48 port switch and our Dream machine. Now, we're gonna have to change some things around again here shortly. Not in this video, because I'm still waiting on stuff to arrive, but I'm going to change this single 48 port patch panel for 2 24 ports so I can surround the switch. It'll make for just better, cleaner cable management, cable runs to and from each of the keystones, and then we'll slide the Dream machine down slightly to make room for that. Got everything now plugged into our power hub, and check it out, power on here, and look at this, we even have screens, little tiny ones, to show us kind of what's going on. Oh wow, these are actually touch screens. Now that is pretty cool. And for a network nub like me, it means setup is a lot easier. So you can see the Dream machine wants me to plug in the cable, and it actually shows me the port that I need to connect to, and that's going to be this one here. But we also need to have the switch, connected to the internet.
A lot of boring math later.
I've reconnected the modem directly to the gateway now. I keep calling it a gateway, but the Dream machine. And then from there, I've got the Dream machine connected to the switch, which will then provide an internet connection for every other device on the network. So that's how the order should have been done, I think. I'm still learning, okay? And check this out. I downloaded the UI app and it immediately detected both the Dream machine and the video recorder. I didn't have to do anything at all. So this setup should be fairly straightforward. And here we are with connected G5 Pro cameras. Now I've got a live view going right now, and it will automatically flip the orientation if it realizes that you're upside down, so that's really cool. But let me full screen this for you just to get an idea of the quality. I think it's really good. It does have autofocus capabilities, really great infrared modes for night viewing and the like. It'll also kind of it'll show like a thermal map of where the most activity is being detected on the camera over time. It took a little while to sync this up with the NVR, so right now I've only got a 2 terabyte hard disk drive in there. It's not gonna store a ton of 4K footage, which this supports, but that of course can be easily expanded later. Go ahead and tab out of this. Now, the one thing you wanna make sure of if you are using both the Dream Machine and an NVR is that you adopt the cameras in your network to the NVR and not the Dream Machine. Because while this Dream Machine Special Edition does have an expandable storage slot, you obviously want to have more storage available if possible, just so you don't have to keep deleting files and writing over them. And that's why I wanted to make sure that the NVR was the default storage location for our security cameras. So I've already got these named. This will be the front-facing camera at the new place, and I have a rear camera as well set up. Again, we actually were sent 2 or 3 more of them. We'll probably find uses for them at a later point, but for now, this is all I really needed to set up. We do have some access points. One of those is, why is it sitting way over here? So this thing right here, this is an AP Pro, and it's pretty much, it's similar to what we used in the old house, but this is more of a heavy-duty Wi-Fi 6 standard. I mean, it's a Pro. It's your standard access point, but it's gonna have great range, it's gonna have great support, and of course, it is PoE, so just one simple Ethernet cable. And we have a few, I think, dropped in from the house. So we'll be able to mount these to the ceiling in a few places and have Wi-Fi coverage pretty much everywhere. We'll also be using the G4 Doorbell Pro. That was a sweet peel. And this thing actually has really good camera quality as well, including a downward-facing camera, so you can see packages and things. Now, I have been occasionally popping over to the house just to check progress, and I'm actually doing the wiring of the access points myself. You can barely see that on frame there. But so I've got those run basically where they need to be from the attic. We've got drop downs that run from the media closet to the location here, which is next to the living room. And then we've got another location, which is gonna be kind of near my office in case I need a Wi-Fi backup. I want that signal to be strong as well. So pretty good coverage of the house. You can see we've still got a little ways to go. The kitchen's missing, but it will be here, I believe, in the next few days. The pool and stuff is coming along really well. That just needs to be, they just need to add gunite to it, I think, and fill it up, and then it's finished. And everything else is good to go. While we're here, I'll go ahead and give you a quick shot of the office, which is basically finished. So we've got carpet going up. I know I chose carpet just because it's better for sound. This is just so that folks aren't, dragging dirty feet up here. But up the stairs we go, and then the media closet, which has, all of these, all these Ethernet cables. And I put Keystone little covers on each of these myself. That took a long time. We also had our ISP come by today and run everything. We haven't actually laid grass yet in the front yard, so he was able to very easily trench from the box out front, run the, it's not optic, unfortunately, it's a coax line, but he was able to run that through the dirt underneath the driveway because we had little tubes running underneath the driveway, which is a huge help. If you're gonna build a house, make sure that you put access tubes underneath your driveway. If possible, it just makes it way easier if you need to add things, including irrigation, stuff with your internet provider, etc. But yeah, here's the office. It's really pretty much finished. We've even got the lighting installed now. We're just missing a fan in the center, but I think I'm gonna tap into that for LEDs. I don't think I'm gonna put a fan in here. I don't really need one. We have basically it's almost like a dedicated AC unit just for the upstairs. We have 2 AC units in this house, and the smaller one is what feeds essentially this room and then one other in the house. So I thought that ahead because my office is always getting very dirty. We just need to finish capping off these here. So we've got the Keystone jacks, but we need to actually pop them into the little cover here and this little wall plate, vacuum the carpet, touch up some paint, and then caulk a little bit, and we'll be good to go. So there's the status of that. Now back to the regular content. And just like that, we are finished with this server rack. until we move things to the new house. Pretty much got most of it packaged back up in the box. We'll be taking all of the server equipment out of the rack before we transport it, of course, but the next step is to bring it all to the new house and officially connect it all for the first time. Now, we're still waiting on power. We do have a power tap from the power company at the new house, but we don't actually have power in the home yet. Our breaker box is still being worked on and whatnot. So once we can get that all going, then we can migrate this all there. Even though we won't be officially living in the house yet, we can still have all the server equipment up and running, the cameras, etc., just to keep an eye on things until we officially move in. I have learned so much over the last few videos. Filming this little server mini-series has been super fun, and now I'm just starting to dabble in the software side of it with this server here. We've got, like I said, Proxmox, and we've got TrueNAS, neither of which I had ever worked with before, so setting that up was definitely interesting. It took a few tries to get it right, but I think we're starting to get the hang of it, and I'm just grateful that all of you are willing to come along for the ride. I'm gonna have a bunch of Ubiquiti stuff in the video description. They did not sponsor this video, but I do wanna give them a huge shout because, again, some of the stuff is fairly pricey. So that was a huge help for our new home. So show them some love down there. I'll try to have the server build itself as well linked below if you wanna build something similar, so you can see at least what we're rocking and go from there. Tweak it how you like. It's definitely not the conventional server build, but I do intend to game with it and do a few other things remotely that I think is gonna require some pretty beefy hardware. If you enjoyed watching this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. That would be greatly appreciated. Also, let me know in the comment section below what you think so far of our server build. I'm sure some of you wanna rip my head off because it's very clear I don't really know what I'm doing, but I can assure you I have learned more in the past few days with regards to networking and servers than I ever could have. Heck, even watching videos like these. Like, there's nothing that can really replace being hands-on with stuff and just diving in head first. So again, thanks for coming along for the ride. If you want to subscribe, get subscribed if you haven't already, and stay tuned for the next one. My name is Greg. Thanks for learning with me.